Right, so I'm going to do this video that talks about Amazon and their HQ2. You know, it's been a year, which surprises me, but it's been almost a year since Amazon made that announcement that they're wanting to have a second headquarters. In between that time, Amazon has expanded crazy in different areas, from Vancouver to Atlanta to points in between. And there's still people who have their opinions on where they think it's going to go and that type of thing. And there's still cities like Indianapolis who really think that they have a shot, and I don't think that's the case, right? Someone asked me just the other day if I still think that Atlanta is going to be the place that gets it over Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or any of those places, and I still have to say yes. Now, this article was published today, August 31st, and prior to this article, which does not say Atlanta gets it, okay? It doesn't mention who is going to win it. It doesn't even really talk about Atlanta. But I have to say that in a previous article with the Seattle Times, it mentions Atlanta again, right? This was probably about 2 weeks ago. It talks about Atlanta. So here is on the screen, this is basically downtown Atlanta. And it says an area known as the Gulch, made up of parking lots and railroad lines, is seen against Atlanta's downtown skyline. The Atlanta City Council this month held a hearing on a public funding scheme for an Amazon-sized redevelopment of the area. Amazon may be trying to get assurances of promised tax breaks in real estate terms before choosing among its 20 suitor finalists, which include Atlanta. Okay. I have to go back again and say I really and truly think it's going to be Atlanta. And I think that people underestimate Atlanta and kind of what Atlanta is really all about. I think they get a view that is not accurate. And I think that's from watching TV and TV shows and reality shows. And that may show one side of Atlanta, but there's a whole totally different side of Atlanta that people don't understand. It's truly the South's powerhouse. It's not Miami. It's not Charlotte. It's Atlanta. And to a great degree, it's not any other places in Texas either. People thought Austin and that type of thing. I just disagree. I mean, when you just look at everything on paper, Atlanta pulls ahead of a lot of places. Now, not every place, right? There are plenty of other cities I can mention that probably would really push Atlanta for its money, and that would be places like Chicago and Boston, and there's a few others. But again, those are two cold weather cities that are very expensive. You know, land this size, that close to downtown, is just going to be extremely expensive. And the thing with Atlanta, along with other cities like Nashville, I notice, have a lot of space downtown that's being underutilized. And so that's appealing to an Amazon. When you look at some of these older cities, they've built up everything in their inner core. And so the only thing that you have is basically going out towards the suburbs. And that's not what Amazon is about. It's all about an urban campus. Okay? So this article, which the link is up here, but I'll put it in the description box. And I thought I was going to have a break today because I was done making videos. I've done like 4 or 5 videos, but might as well finish this one up for this Friday. But it says, for HQ2 watchers, it's awfully quiet out there. There is little to suggest Amazon will reveal the location of its second headquarters anytime soon, except perhaps the calendar. September 7th marks the 1 year since the Seattle company's surprise announcement that it's planning to build a second headquarter campus in another Northern American city. As that anniversary approaches, some economic developers and government officials, from observers in Seattle to bidders in the Northeast, say they are preparing for a final decision as if it were imminent. They all want to make one thing clear: they did not hear from Amazon. Long known as a secretive company, Amazon has lived up to the reputation during its search for a spot to put the full equal second headquarters and some 50,000 employees requiring non-disclosure agreements with the remaining bidders and practicing a level of information control around the project that has surprised even some employees at the company's headquarters. Okay, so observers are hungry for details about how the process has proceeded over the last several months. Haven't had much to chew on. The clearest public indication of the company's thinking remains the 8-page request for proposals posted online a year ago that laid out the company's wish list for a second home. Of the 238 applicants who met an October deadline for the submissions, Amazon plucked 20 finalists in January and started visiting those cities, saying only that it would make a final decision sometimes in 2018. And of course, below shows you all of these different places, right? So it shows you pretty much the various different cities that they're considering, right? That's still in the running. And absent of that list, because Austin would be somewhere right in here, is Austin. It's not there, right? Let's see. Which one's that? Does it tell you? Is this an interactive map? No, Austin's still on there, so that's my bad. Austin's on here, so Seattle, of course, which is not going to happen. It could. Again, this could just be Amazon's way of just blowing smoke up people's butts, but it could be Seattle, right? It's a possibility that they continue to expand here, but I don't think that's the case. Los Angeles is on the list, of course. These are the only 2 cities on the West Coast that's on that list. Then there's Denver, Colorado. I don't think they're going to get it. And I already chose that one. Dallas is on the list. Miami's on the list. Atlanta, Georgia is on the list. Nashville's on the list. Chicago, Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio. These 2 cities, not going to get it. Nashville's not going to get it. Let's see here. Charlotte, is that Charlotte? Or no, that's Raleigh, isn't it? Yeah, Raleigh is on the list. Charlotte didn't make it. I had someone argue with me that Charlotte was going to be the it city, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see Raleigh making it either. Boston is on the list. Philadelphia is on the list. New York, Pittsburgh, several locations in the DC metro area. All of those are on the list, right? And Boston, Toronto. So someone asked me if I still think that this is going to be the case. Anything that is right in this area is all cold and snow. And I've said it before. It's cold and snow. Some people theorize that basically this is Amazon's second headquarters for like all their logistics, right? Potentially. That they want something that is, because they're at one point trying to take over and do their own shipping and things like that, and not use private contractors and not use UPS and all those, right? Or FedEx. So they're trying to really have their own thing. That's why they have the big, huge Amazon Prime planes and different things. It could be that they fly their planes definitely out of Seattle directly to whatever city, and then start distributing out packages similar to what UPS does, right? UPS has a huge mega hub in Memphis, also has a huge mega hub up in Louisville, Kentucky. And so from there, it's kind of their distribution. No, wait a minute. Am I correct on that? Is it Memphis or is that FedEx that has it? I can't remember, but I do know they have a huge hub up in Louisville. And then from there, they just kind of shoot packages all over the place. Well, it could be that Amazon's doing the same thing, and they need a headquarters that deals exclusively with shipping of their products. I think that Amazon eventually will start to be more of a global company, meaning that kind of like Netflix. Netflix is in most countries around the world, even Haiti. Netflix is even in Haiti. So I think that it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to see Amazon trying to go further and actually connect internationally, right? It would make sense to do it in places like Canada or Mexico because they're close by, and then going from there. But, I mean, who knows, right? So anyway, enough about that. The experience of finalist Philadelphia is typical. The city has hosted Amazon officials for a whirlwind tour this winter, an effort to give the company a feel for the town, and responded to the company's follow-up questions in writing. Since then, people working on the bid have waited and worked on other projects in the meantime. We don't have any new information, says John Grady, who leads the PIDC, the Public-Private Economic Development Group that led Philadelphia's bid. We're a little bit on the receiving end of this process. Grady's organization is typical for the HQ2 process in another way. The PIDC, formerly Philadelphia Industrial Development Corp., has not said what the city's bid offers Amazon in terms of tax breaks and other programs to offset the company's costs, citing the semi-private nature of its charter and concerns that such disclosures could give other cities a competitive advantage. The bid has cost the city more than $500,000, a sum that, if it is a complete accounting, would likely be on the low end among bidders still in the running. Corporate site relocation consultants say, Philadelphia is resisting both a state record office order and 5 lawsuits seeking to compel the city to turn over its entire proposal, the news site said, which I don't understand why people want to know what any city is doing to try to lure a company like Amazon. Because if I got a hold of the information because I'm trying to seek what Philadelphia is doing, then anyone can get a hold of it. So then other cities will say, well, heck, they're going to offer this. I'm going to offer it 10 times better. Similar battles between transparency advocates and economic development officials are playing out in other cities. What is striking about HQ2 is that you have cities that are generally committed to transparency, hiding their HQ2 bids. This may be the first time that many people have seen this ugly side of economic development. So it goes on and on and on and on. Talks about different cities and what they've actually offered. Maryland's offering a tax break in infrastructure projects valued at $8.5 billion. And Newark offered something in the neighborhood of $7 billion, which captured headlines. Others, such as existing incentive programs, suggest the breaks from other cities, including Atlanta, Chicago, Columbus, Ohio, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, easily top $1 billion. Now, one of those that you don't see on there is Boston. There has been terms or rumor that Boston is not going to offer anything. Now, that could be what Boston is just saying, and behind the scenes is something else. But Boston really doesn't have to offer nothing. I mean, to be honest with you, it's in a league of its own. Boston, New York, they're in a league of their own. Let's see. So anyway, it talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, but then it goes down. I said it doesn't talk about Atlanta, but that's not true. Here it is. Such a process might look like the deliberations playing out in Atlanta, where the city council this month held a hearing on a public funding scheme for an Amazon-sized redevelopment of a downtown area called the Gulch. A spokeswoman for Georgia State Economic Development Office declined to comment, and this is the article. If you go here, you can click on it, and it pretty much talks about what's going on in terms of that. There's also widespread speculation that Amazon will whittle its relatively large 20-location shortlist to a smaller group of cities from which it will solicit final offers. It's unclear whether Amazon will publicly announce such a decision or inform cities of its thinking quietly. The company declined to comment on its plans. It makes sense. I mean, you have 20 cities. And I think it's easy for a company to jockey between the different cities and what they're offering and then going for it. You know, here's one of the things. A city can offer, or a state can offer, tons of incentives to a company. But then you have to keep in mind, too, infrastructure improvements. You know, a city council member or a mayor have no idea what it takes to build a road. Right? They don't know what that requires. They don't understand all the easements and everything else and what restrictions are there and drainage issues or none of that. They have no clue. So when a company like Amazon, or traffic patterns and how such a development might impact traffic or freeway or internet or interstate access and all of that. They don't know, right? So they can promise the moon, but if those things don't work itself out, or it basically comes back that basically the areas that were chosen are bad fit, then Amazon's going to choose someplace else, right? A lot of times, even here in Tacoma, when I talked about the Top Golf, you know, nothing's been said recently, and they said, you know, Top Golf has so many days to give them information, and then they would decide. Well, I asked a group of folks that pretty much kind of know information about, you know, what's going on, and they're saying right now it's basically being under review as far as traffic studies and impacts and different things like that, right? Because they want to make sure that if this is built, it doesn't just create a much bigger problem. And so right now, everything's in a hold pattern. So more than likely, if you were to ask Top Golf, like, what's going on, they couldn't tell you because they probably signed a non-disclosure agreement. Same thing with the city. They probably signed a non-disclosure agreement saying they can't talk about it, right? And so when you look at cities like Atlanta, it could be that they're saying, hey, for us to be able to offer Amazon the Gulch, what do we need to do? Like, what is everything that has to come into place to make that happen? What about the subway access? You know, they have MARTA there. What about bus routes that, you know, have to be redesigned? Because this is a mega project. What can we offer? What's the future like? So a lot of these cities have to really map out what's going to happen today and what's going to happen in the near future as far as plans go, and pretty much guarantee almost that these things are going to happen. And that's very hard in cities like Columbus and Indianapolis that has absolutely no rail transportation, right? And one of the things that Amazon really takes pride in is rail, mass transit. And both of those cities don't have it. And people say, well, that's not all that they're looking for. Well, it's something that's very important to them. It's very important to Amazon. Again, I mean, they helped start the whole streetcar system in Seattle. I mean, it's a very important thing for them. Because Amazon, again, they want their workers to be able to, on their lunch breaks, go out into the downtown area. They want them to be able to have quick access to where they can leave their office, quickly go to the many different cafes they want to, and then be able to come back without even having to move their car or even needing a car. So people say, well, you have BRT, which is what Indianapolis is trying to do. It's not the same. Unless it is BRT like you've seen in South American countries, it's not the same at all. So, and also, when you put rail in the ground, it shows a commitment. You can't just rip those up anytime. I mean, I guess you could, but it shows a stronger commitment than something on wheels that you can easily change the route or whatever you need to do. So having that rail in place, I think, is a key factor for all the other cities that are still in this, whether they have light rail or whether they have subway system. But the fact that some of these cities don't have any of that and barely have I mean, Indianapolis, their bus service is horrible. And it has always been. So I just don't see that city making it. I don't see Nashville making it. Especially when you're up against like a Boston, you're up against an Atlanta, you're up against a Philadelphia, a Chicago. I just don't see it personally. And I could be wrong. But anyway, you can go through and you can read this. It says Amazon's hiring of a lobbyist in Atlanta and an economic developer in D.C. signaled to some news outlets that each of those cities may be on top. A spike in clicks from Seattle users to a local news site did the same for Northern Virginia. And the Columbus Dispatch, citing a single Atlanta economist, has been reporting that the company's decision was imminent since early April. That's too much for one official involved in a finalist list. I gave up tea leaf reading on HQ2 long ago, he said. Again, I go back and I say I really and truly think it's going to be Atlanta. I really and truly do. After reading the little bit of information that you can get on what Atlanta's offering as far as the Gulch and just kind of the, you know, and I did the video, which will be at the end that you can click on, that talks about I think that it's going to be Atlanta. You can go through and watch that video as to why I think it's Atlanta. But just looking at everything that the city has to offer and what they're going to offer and what's available, the cost of living, all of that, it's a really hard thing to beat. And on top of that, they have a tremendous amount of tech workers. The busiest airport in the world, it's right here. So it's a warm weather city. I really and truly think, and it is definitely East Coast. It's within a close drive to a lot of the nation's population, a day drive, easily. So I think that's probably going to be Atlanta. I still feel that way. Put your comments down below what you think. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. I'm going to enjoy mine now officially. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.